What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Buffalo Commander. I am your host, Alex. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, and hit the notification bell on your way in. Thanks for joining today. I wanted to do a quick video, maybe 10, 15 minutes, on some things that we were arguing about on Twitter today involving the draft and the wide receiver position in the first round. So there's some mock drafts that happened last night that I tuned into that I thought were interesting. And it's something that I've seen as a common theme with people taking a different position in round one, namely defensive tackle or edge instead, or center, instead of drafting a wide receiver in that role. And then by the time it gets down to the second round, they're left with, I'll say it, scraps at the position. And that verbiage or that adjective, whatever you want to call it, that was used against me in the conversation, which I thought was kind of funny because I'm merely using it as in like in a metaphorical sense. It's not like I'm telling people scraps, but like if you're down to like tier 3 or tier 4 or maybe tier 5 as a wide receiver at that spot, dude, like that's not good. Like we're here to get a receiver because we have a huge major issue there, and we're going to take the second level or third or fourth level guys. Like that to me is just malpractice at that point, you know? I don't get it. I don't understand why we can't all like come together on this. We need we lost wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2. This draft, in addition to this, something else that was said is how deep this draft is at wide receiver. At the top, it's really elite, and that pushes people down. But this is not like a historically deep middle of the draft. Most of the depth is in round 1 and round 2. And that's just a blatant fact. Like the first probably 14 or 15 wide receivers are probably going to end up going to probably going before pick 60. And I wanted to share something on that from Matt Miller on Buffalo Plus that I think is pretty interesting as far as how this draft looks after pick 28 and after the second round, really, but at the end of the second round, how far it drops off. So here it goes.
NFL Draft Scout, great follow. And that's where I want to start here, Matt. A lot of talk about wide receivers. And the first thing I want to talk about is your tweet actually from earlier today, because we all talk about how deep this wide receiver draft class is. And maybe it is, but it's really heavy at the top. Your tweet talks about how you have 19 wide receivers in your top 100, only 12 wide receivers from 100 to 205, and then a whole bunch of guys after that. I guess kind of can you go a little bit more off of your tweet of just saying it's kind of stacked at the top?
It is like, and I think, I was running through my final rankings posted Sunday. You could find those on ESPN.com. And I was looking at those, trying to find like, where are the sweet spots for each position? And it was like, my goodness, this wide receiver group is loaded at the top, but it is very much like, if you think about a teeter-totter, like all that talent is in the first 100. And then there is a significant drop-off. So, and I've caught myself saying this too, of like, oh, it's in a historic wide receiver class. It is at the top. But it is not when we're not talking about, in round 3, I only have 5 wide receivers in the third round. So you got 14 in the first 2 rounds.
And who are those 5 wide receivers going to be?
They look at a mock draft or they look at things we write
Baker,
and they say, man, I'll just wait till the 3rd or 4th round to get a receiver. I have 8 wide receivers ranked in the 3rd and 4th round. That's it. And there are a heck of a lot of teams that need wide receivers, right? And so it's almost like trying to set expectations a little bit for fan bases of, hey, if you want a wideout, this is the year to do it. You better do it in the first 64 picks. Otherwise, you're getting somebody who's probably like a slot receiver, which there's a heck of a lot of value there. Those are great players, but you're not expecting to get a starting X wide receiver in the 3rd round this year. And in the 4th round, you're definitely not.
Okay. Let me stop sharing this. Whoops. There we go. Sorry. Okay. So that pretty much kind of encapsulates my point, is that you're seeing a lot of these mock drafts and people are waiting on a wide receiver in round 1 because they want Jerzon Newton, who will be our 3rd defensive tackle in this team at best. And that's if he's as good as we think he is. Or JPJ, who's a center who has snapping issues and false start issues at that position. That's not good, not for a center. So I know he's the best center in this draft and he's physically looks the part, and he does, like, as a guard, I would like him better actually. But does that move the needle? No, that doesn't do anything for us. Like, yeah, he could play on the line and our line might be marginally better if that. And then we're sitting here like still no weapons to throw the ball to because he was the best player available on the board. That's just silly to me, especially when we have like major issues at wide receiver that need to be addressed. And we're going to hold off and wait until pick 60 to get a guy. Let's say at best case scenario, if you pass up, you're going after a guy, trading up in the draft to mid 40s, giving up a 4th round pick to do it. And then you're in a place where you're going to get Troy Franklin, maybe. Or like the guy did in his mock draft, he takes Javon Baker in round 2. That's a 4th round grade for me. And for most people, dude, this guy's skyrocketed, not because of his tape. No one was talking about this guy until the Senior Bowl when he had a release package he did a release and people were like, wow, he's got an insane release package. Look what he turned this guy around. And even then he didn't get that much separation on the route, but it was a pretty looking release. And then he had a fade route, a 10-yard fade route in the end zone that he caught a touchdown pass on in a practice. And people were like, oh my gosh, he's amazing. Not to mention afterwards, when he was asked about, how he views DBs or something like that, he was like, I'm out there to kill him or something. I mean, I like the attitude. I like the dog, but it doesn't change anything for me as far as how I view him. I think he spends way too much time in his release package. He takes way too much time to free up and get open. And he's slow-footed and he is off the line of scrimmage. He's not fast. His 10-yard split at the combine will verify that, what I see on tape there, that he is slow off the line of scrimmage. And it might be why he spends so much time on his release, because he spends too much time on it in the beginning. It's like, just get to it is what it feels like. Get to the route. And in the pro game, you can't do that. You got to uncover quickly. I just don't think he's there with that. He's a round 4 guy, maybe round 3 guy, and we're going to reach on him on 60 because you wanted a center in round 1. You're like, let's put off this bigger need when there's other guys who are closely valued to maybe a JPJ. We're going to push it off just because the guy's rated a little bit lower in a position we need far more. It just doesn't make sense to me at all to do that. And I see it over and over and over again in these mock drafts where, and I know they're mock drafts, I know they're not official or anything, and we can't predict the future, but I see it over and over again. I see guys getting drafted, like 13 to 15 guys, 12 at a minimum getting drafted before. So we're at wide receiver 13 instead of wide receiver maybe 5 or 6 at 28. Or if we move up, wide receiver 4 potentially, and we're sitting back like, well, we're good. We'll just get wide receiver 14 or 15. That is scraps to me. Sorry. It just is. It doesn't make any sense to me to wait that long at a position that we need that much because we can get marginally better at center or guard when we don't really need it. And you can get guard depth into the 4th and 5th round, guys who can end up being like legitimate starters. So it just doesn't make any sense to me for us to wait that long for a position that's so, and we just got rid of our number 1 wide receiver and number 2, by the way. So It's just is what it is. I was going to throw a mock draft on the screen just to show you kind of how it falls every single time. But I don't think it's necessary. Go pull it up yourself. Go to pff.com and run a mock draft simulator. Put yourself at pick 28. Don't move up or down. See who's there at 28. Take Jackson Powers Johnson. Let it run to 60. See what you see. A bunch of fourth-rate guys. The second-rate guys are gone in like the 20s and 30s. This is like this is tier 4. Javon Baker, Jalen McMillan, Jermaine Burton, major character issues. He'd be higher otherwise. Guys like that are falling there. Is that our answer? And then maybe an OBJ? Like, give me a break, dude. I'm over this. I'm over this stupidity because really what this comes from is some of these outlets, they just want to troll you because they think you're stupid for wanting wide receiver in round 1. They want to tell you you're dumb because you want wide receiver or bust in round 1, even though it makes the most amount of sense. It's not always wide receiver or 1. In 2025, I'm not going to go wide receiver or bust in round 1 if we get the guy this year. But until we get a guy, and as long as there's no other glaring needs, which we don't have any glaring needs, newsflash, maybe edge, but you want edge 4 there? Not to mention there's plenty of hired gun edge guys like Floyd last year after June 1, where we have $10 extra million. Go get Yannick Ngakoue. We got plenty of edge guys that can stop the run, by the way. We just need a hired gun edge dude with pass rushing ability that can get 7 to 10 sacks. That's what we need right now on the defensive line from the edge position. And then next year we can draft one or move up for one or whatever and then take one. But right now, like, you got to be kidding me. Like, we can get by with what we have and get a hired gun after June 1st, and then we're fine. Like, we don't really have any other major holes. You can tell me in the comments if you think we do, but I beg to differ. You can complain about safety, but I like Edwards at free safety. He's had a raw deal his whole career of being put into backup roles because of solid safety play in front of him from veterans. And then Rapp down the stretch last year played well. He started the season poorly, but he played well down the stretch. And that's with him playing a lot of free safety reps. He's going to be solely a strong safety this year. So I'm okay with that. As long as we get a depth safety in the mid rounds, like a 4th rounder, who maybe could start one day. And the same thing with Cam Lewis. Cam Lewis can play. I know he got mossed by Justin Jefferson a couple years ago, but he was in position, by the way. He made a stupid decision by trying to intercept it over a guy who's 5 inches taller than him and can outleap him. But he was there. So I got no issues with him being a backup safety, backup slot corner. So yeah, that's how I feel about it. If we wait till 60, we have a lot of disappointed people. I'll support whoever's on this team, whatever pick we take them. But when it's wrong and the receiver we could have had ends up being good and JPJ or whoever the heck it is here middling around or starting but being kind of a middle-of-the-road guy in the NFL, I'm going to say something. I'm going to tell you that I was right. Because I think that that's what you should do if you're right. And people criticize you for it. So, but I do believe that this is a situation where you're being trolled by some of these outlets. They're trying to tell you you're stupid because you're not buying into BPA. No one does BPA, by the way. If they did, they would take a quarterback when the quarterback falls, even if they have a quarterback. They don't do that. Teams do BPA as long as it's a position of need. And even then, if there's a thin margin, you think that if there's a way bigger need at a position and there's a thin margin between the guy that would fill the bigger need, they're going to take the guy who has the bigger need. Trust me. It's not just BPA. Don't let them lie to you. So anyhow, thanks for tuning in. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, and hit the notification bell. And I appreciate y'all showing up. Thanks. Bye.